Welcome to Learner's Planet, my dear children. Children, in the previous session we discussed about removing insoluble impurities from the water by some physical processes, and in this session we are going to continue with the same topic but somewhat different, like removing impurities, but the soluble impurities by some processes with which we can get the purified form of water, right? And these are the chemical processes, or we can say the chemical processes or the biological processes, right? So let us discuss about some biological and chemical processes by which we can remove the soluble impurities. Let us start with this session. Yes, removing soluble impurities. As you know that impurities are of two kinds, soluble and insoluble. So soluble impurities are the ones that dissolve in water, for example salt, and insoluble impurities are the ones that do not dissolve in water, right? So we discussed about the insoluble impurities, removing insoluble impurities, and this session we will discuss about removing soluble impurities. As you know, children, that it is more difficult to separate soluble impurities than the insoluble ones. Why? We will study and we will come to know that soluble impurities can be separated by which processes? Evaporation and distillation, right? So let us start with the first process known as evaporation. Yes, as you know that evaporation takes place as the molecules of water escape from a collective body of water, like a lake or a stream, right, or a river. Water molecules evaporate by taking up heat from the atmosphere, right? So how does this process takes place? It takes place when water molecules evaporate with the help of heat, by taking up heat from the atmosphere, from a collective body of water, right? So from a collective body of water, the water molecules will evaporate, right? They will take some heat from that place from which they get evaporated, and this heat then it is stored in the water molecule, right? And after some time we can see that it has been evaporated, and then it falls down in the form of rain, right? So this process just goes on and on, right? But this is the process which is taking up in the environment, right? How does this process can help us to remove the impurity from the water? Let us see. Yes, we will take an example over here to understand this process of evaporation. That is, the solution containing soluble impurities such as salt or sugar is heated, as you can see here in the picture, right? This is a solution which contains soluble impurities such as salt or sugar. After some time, when we are providing this container with a heat or with a flame, leave it for some time. After some time the water changes into steam, or the water vapor, leaving the impurities behind, right? So by this process what will happen? The impurities will be left behind and the water will change into water vapor. By this process we can, exactly, when salt or sugar gets dissolved in the water, it is very much difficult for us to separate it from this solution. So how can this be achieved? How can we remove the impurity? The impurities will be left behind and rest of the water will convert into, or it will change into steam, right? So in this way we can remove the impurity from the water or from the solution in which salt or sugar is dissolved, or rather any other impurity is dissolved, which is the soluble impurity, right? So in this way we can separate this impurity from the solution and we can get purified form of water. So this evaporation activity or this evaporation can be best explained through one more example. Like if we will use 2 cups of water, if we take 2 cups of water, one that is covered and another that is uncovered, to show over the days that the water in the uncovered cup evaporates or disappears and the water in the covered cup retains more water, to perform this we need to have 2 cups, a marker and a material to cover a cup, such as any wrap, any aluminium foil, and water. Right? First of all, mark a fill line on the cups in the same place on both the cups. Right? Fill the cups with the water to the fill line which we have marked. Now cover one of the cups with the paper or wrap it with the aluminium foil and leave another cup as uncovered. Right? Each day you will observe that water has evaporated from the cups, and just mark the level of the water on each cup. Finally, on one such day we will observe, or we can notice, that the water level reduces in the cup that has no cover. This is what explains the evaporation process, because even if we do not heat the water will evaporate. So this is one such natural process of evaporation, right? And if we have to remove the impurity, we have to just heat it, so all the impurities will settle down and rest of the water will change into steam, or it will convert it into water vapor. So in this way we can get the purified form of water. In the same way we can remove the impurities from the water by other famous process, popular process known as distillation. So let us discuss about that process. Yes. So first of all we should know that what is meant by distillation. Children, distillation is a widely used method for separating mixtures based on the differences in their boiling points. Right? So in the previous process, that is evaporation, it was about the process in which the water molecules evaporate. But in this process, it depends upon the difference in the boiling points. For example, to separate a mixture of liquids, the liquid can be heated to change the components which have different boiling points, right, into the gas phase. Now how can we change this? Yes, there are certain conditions which are required to change the phase of the components of the mixture, right? So to separate a mixture of liquid, first we will have to heat the liquid, right, to force their components so that it can achieve their boiling points. To achieve the boiling points means, yes, it will achieve the boiling point means after reaching to that point, it will convert into the gaseous phase, means it will start evaporating or it will start heating, right? We are heating the liquid, it will get heated, right? It will be in the liquid form, right? And after reaching certain temperature, that liquid will be converted into the gaseous form, right? So this point at which the liquid, when heated, will convert it into the gaseous phase is known as the boiling point. Means at this point it has boiled to its extent. Now this is its limit. After this it will not get boiled, but it will change its phase, that is from liquid to gas, right? So to separate this mixture of liquid, a liquid is first heated so that it can change the components which have the different boiling points into the gaseous phase, right? I hope this is clear to you. So it is the process in which the separating mixtures are based on the differences in their boiling points, a point where a liquid will be converted into the gaseous form when heated. Let us understand it more easily or more clearly with the help of a picture or a diagram? Yes. This is one such picture of the distillation process in which what has happened, this is a flask, right? In this flask there is impure water. The impure water is taken in this round bottomed flask and then it is heated. As you can see here, this is known as a Bunsen burner, right? So the flame is provided and the flask is heated in which there is impure water. You can see here impure water, as if we can take an example of a salt, a common salt dissolved in water, a common salt or the table salt which we eat, which we use in our daily diet, in our daily food, right? A pinch of salt, right? So here this is a common salt which is dissolved in water, a soluble impurity, right? And then it is heated. Now after heating it, what happens? You can see here, this is one such cylindrical tube which is known as condenser. As you know, children, that condenser means condense. Condense means, as you know, the condensation process. Try to recall the condensation process. What is that process? It is a process in which the liquid will convert it into solid form. Is it? No. It is the process in which the solid will convert into liquid form. No. Then what is the condensation process? Try to recall. Yes, it is the process which is opposite to the evaporation, means the process in which a gaseous form converts into a liquid form. We can take the best example of water, when the water vapor or steam is converted into water, right? So you can see here, when we heat this flask, what will happen? After reaching its boiling point, means at the junction, at the point when this water will be converted into the gaseous form. Now this gaseous form is actually traveling through this tube, cylindrical tube known as condenser. What will happen? The gaseous form will travel here, the water will exit out from this place, right? This is known as the distillation flask in which impure water is kept. On heater, the water changes into steam and the impurities are left behind, right? And when the steam passes through the condenser, it will cool down and it will turn into water again, right? You know the condensation process in which the gas converts into liquid, right? So on heating, the water changes into steam, means evaporation process takes place. And because of this process, the impurities are left behind, right? Now when the steam passes through the condenser, it will cool down the steam and it will convert into water. So the impurities are already left behind and the cool water will exit out of this place, right? Of this thing, right? And we can also see this. From this place we are pouring in the cold water so that it can travel through this tube. Then it will condense, it will first of all get heated in the flask where the impurities will be left behind. And what will happen? The cold, why we are pouring the cold water in, so that it can keep this cylindrical tube in a cold form. That means in the condenser, what will happen? Because of this, water will remain in the cold form or in the cool form, so that the steam gets converted into water again, right? So in this condenser, we will add the cooling water from here, and the rest of the water, which is the purified form of water, in which there will be no impurities, will be collected in a conical flask. Right, so this is the pure water which is collected in a flask. So this is the distillation process by which we can obtain the pure water. So first of all, the water will be heated. Because of this heating, the impurities will be left behind, and then it will pass through this tube or the condenser, right, in which the steam will get converted into water again. And when it will be converted into water, it will be in the pure form. and it will be collected in a conical flask, right? So this is the gas which get condensed back into liquid form, and repeating the process on the collected liquid to improve the purity of the product is known as double distillation, right? Simply when we start the process, it is known as distillation, and repeating the process to improve its purity is known as double distillation, right? And it is used mostly in the pharmaceutical industries, right? So it is all to separate the gases. This process is used to separate the gases by liquefying the components using change in the temperature or the pressure, right? So why this distilled water or the distillation is so much helpful? Yes, the water collected by this process is known as the distilled water, and distilled water, why it is so much helpful? Because it is the purest form of water and it does not contain any impurities or germs, and that is why it is widely used in car batteries, injections and medicines, so that it can be sterilized and can be used in the hospitals, right? Because the same injection which has been given to one patient cannot be used for another patient, otherwise there can be chances of getting diseases, right? There can be chances of spread of diseases. So to sterilize all such things, we need to have distilled water, which is the purest form of water, right? So I hope this process is clear to you. Let us move on to some other processes, some other simple processes by which we can get the purified water for drinking. Yes, purifying drinking water. As you know, children, that water may contain germs that can cause diseases. Therefore, drinking water needs to be purified, right? So drinking water can be purified using some methods like boiling, chlorination, filtration, etc. But the most processes which are used for drinking water is the boiling and chlorination. So let us discuss about it. Yes, boiling is one of the simplest ways to purify drinking water, right? By boiling the water for about 10 minutes, kills the germs which are present in the water, making it safe for drinking, right? You might have noticed or you might have seen in the villages, what do the villagers do? They will collect the water from the well, and then that water is not actually in the purified form, 100% purified form, right? It is not in the 100% purified form. So what they do, they boil the water for about 10 minutes, so it will kill the germ which are present in it, and it makes it safe for them to drink. So we can say that boiled water should be stored in a clean and covered pots or pans, so that it can be used for drinking again, right? In the same way, there is other process with which we can get purified water for drinking, and that is chlorination. So this is another method of purifying water, which is by adding a chemical called as chlorine, right? So this is a chemical, we can add a chlorine, that is liquid, and these days chlorine tablets are easily available. So we can add chlorine tablets in water, that will kill the germs and it will make the water pure. You might have noticed at your home your mother would be adding chlorine tablets in a pot, in a matka, right? So in that pot or the pan in which chlorine tablets have been added will kill the germs in that water, and it will make the water pure. And this process of purifying water is called as chlorination, right? So I hope these processes are clear to you. These are the chemical processes, right? So there are physical, biological and chemical processes by which we can remove the impurities from the water, right? The insoluble impurities and the soluble impurities, right? Now let us have a look at the city water supply system, right? City water supply system in which we get the pure water, the clean water. How do we get the clean water? Yes, to make the water from the lakes and rivers fit for drinking, it is purified in the big purification plants before it is made available to homes. And that is why this is termed as the city water supply, means the water which is supplied around the city. The city water supply system includes all the processes of removing impurities such as filtration, sedimentation, right? So let us have a look at the picture which will best explain the city water supply system. Yes, this is the sedimentation tank. So first of all, what happens? The process starts from here. The large impurities are removed by sedimentation and decantation. The lakes, rivers, ponds, puddles, the water is collected from these places, and then it is traveled to such sedimentation tank where the large impurities are removed by sedimentation and decantation, where alum is also added to increase the rate of sedimentation, which is known as the loading process, right? You remember the loading process in which we add the alum, which will make the particles heavier and the impurities will settle down. After that, it is followed by the filtration tank, where the finer impurities are removed by filtration process, and after that it is passed on to the chlorination tank, where chlorine is added to kill the germs, right? And after that, clean water is supplied to the users or to the homes, right? You can see here tap, right? So this is supplied to the city where the homes, where the houses are situated, right? So this is the system of the water supply in the city, right? So in this way also we get somewhat purified or the clean water in our home, which get collected in the rivers and all that places from where it is collected, and then it is passed on through many processes, and then it is supplied to us in our home, right? So in this way this system works. So I hope that we enjoyed this session and learned about all the processes, right? We will meet in the next session with the new lesson. Till then, keep learning, keep enjoying. Thank you, children.